That's right, because it is the launching off point for the news of the day, for the news of the week, and so much more. We're jumping in to the portal. Lots to get to here as we start running down the transfer portal. I want to talk about Fran Brown. We've got some very interesting comments queued up about him as we discussed his wide receiver yesterday. You got an interesting situation continuing to develop at West Virginia and Cal, but as we sit here, timestamp at 11:08 a.m. Eastern time, still in about the same status, I believe, but haven't gotten a chance to hear from you on this one, the very latest on Nico Iamaleava. Either any insight into either holdups or where we are in the process, but also if we are to, step forward with Bruce Feldman's reporting and some others that this is going to end up with Nico at UCLA, what that means for the Bruins moving forward.
Well, I think he's clearly an improvement for UCLA in terms of upside. Now, they got Aguilar from App State, who is like not a bad player. And I thought that was a pretty good get for Sinceri, the new offensive coordinator who comes over from Indiana. But from an upside perspective, I mean, guys, like Nico has a lot more upside than Aguilar does. If it's like leaving Tennessee when he did does hurt his leverage a pretty good bit, because I think it validates some of the whispers that were becoming shouts about, hey, when you get Nico, you also have to deal with the dad. You also have to deal with the hanger-oners. Is the representation actually a professional representation, or do you have to deal with kind of amateur hour? So, to me, like that, those are some of the things you have to think about. I don't know where else he would go at this point if it's not UCLA, though, unless Tennessee goes and plucks one of these Big 12 starters. And then he goes there.
Is that sort of the next piece that you're watching before? Because I've got a couple things about portal, team related, player related, but is the next big domino that you see as you look at the transfer portal situation? Does Tennessee poach somebody? Is that probably the pivot point where this thing could get really interesting?
I think so, but like, who are they going to poach, and does it actually set off a domino?
I don't know.
Tennessee's offense, I think, is pretty unique, right? Like you can run a lot of different guys and still score in that offense. I don't know that you can take it to the next level with just anybody, but there have been some dudes that were real slappies who put up big time numbers in this, kind of whatever you want to call it, veer and shoot offense. Like we saw it at Baylor, and we've seen it elsewhere as well. I've always thinking like, hey, the USF kid Brown is like, they run the same offense at USF. When healthy, he's been pretty good. I heard on the 105 with Ivins and Cooper, they were talking about Heklinski, the kid at Wake Forest.
Yep.
So that could be somebody who makes some sense.
He's already in the portal.
Are they going to really roll with what they have? I kind of doubt it.
No.
I mean, just like aisle shopping through the Big 12. I mean, we talked about it earlier in the week. Sawyer Robertson had offers from other schools that we heard about, and he's still at Baylor. Would Tennessee still make another push at him? Texas Tech, we know, has money. Do they make that'd be going after Nico. But just Josh Hoover at TCU.
Texas Tech not going after Nico might have been just opting out of the experience.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think of like Big 12 QBs Tennessee could raid. So, like, I don't know, like Josh Hoover at TCU, would that be somebody that interested Tennessee?
What we need is Bill Belichick to send over a glowing Josh Hoover tape to Tennessee. That's the way that we get this. Is, let's get him out of TCU. Let's get him elsewhere. Maybe Jordan can get on that. All right. Now, spinning this thing forward with a little bit of look at a couple of teams, a couple of players. There was the question maybe about an hour before we got started. Grant, any more insights? What's happening to my Cal Bears? Now, for those who aren't aware of the stats, here's what we've lost. 4 of the 5 players who threw a single pass last season. Fernando Mendoza, obviously at the top of that, but others as well. 11 of the 19 players who caught a single pass last season. 10 of the 13 players who registered a single rushing attempt. 2 of the 4 tight ends who registered a snap, and 4 of the 5 projected offensive line starters. The hemorrhaging of talent from Cal's football program was headlined with our discussion about Jaden Ott. And Tom offered some really good points from the Oklahoma side of things. But now, as this has continued to just bleed out since the transfer portal opened, can we answer our guy's question? What in the world is happening at Cal right now?
Well, do we know if the coach has full control now? Or we talked about this, what, 3 or 4 weeks ago?
With the Ron Rivera?
Yeah. Did those collectives actually pull their support? Is that what this is?
Like they can't, like it would be like this again. They shouted out 12 minutes at the earliest we get reckless, but it's a Thursday. But like, could you assume that paychecks are being missed? Like, I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. That could be something that you might surmise or at least the message has been given. This is not going to be able to, we're not gonna be able to make payroll all through the season.
I think it's possible. Although I wonder if Ott was just like, there's a different stratosphere as far as money that some of these teams can go to that Cal, even if all the Cal boosters are engaged, that maybe they can or cannot get to. There have been some schools that have had like a big time booster step up or in the ACC or who have found a lot of money out of seemingly nowhere. I think Duke is one of those schools. Like from what we were told like 2 years ago, some of their investments that they had put aside for NIL really blew up like quite a bit. So I don't know if they bought NVIDIA or something, but so it would make sense of how they're able to go out.
You're telling me those nerds made good investments? Damn.
Right.
Fuqua Business School pays off again.
Virginia, I believe has a little more money now than they used to have. Cal, I don't know the situation there. I do know this is a really, really manageable schedule. Have you guys seen this?
The Cal schedule?
Yes. It's at Oregon State, host Texas Southern, host Minnesota, who has a new quarterback in Lindsey, at San Diego State, at Boston College. I mean, host Duke, host UNC, at the Hokies on a Friday night. But they get an extra day of rest with the back-to-back travel there. Virginia, at Louisville, at Stanford, which is not much of a road trip at all, and then host SMU. Like, this is a kind of a gift schedule considering who you don't have to play in the ACC and how manageable the non-conference actually is. So, and now their FanDuel win total is 5.5.
And they're going to have JV players starting for him because
right.
their entire damn team's in the portal.
I mean, the other problem here is that Cal, in its current roster state, is one of those gotta have it wins for a lot of those teams in the ACC. Like you look at this from the perspective of Cal and hey, you could go and win those games. You look at this from the perspective of Virginia, and it's like, all right, come on, we got to beat Cal. If we're gonna make it to a bowl game, we got to beat Cal. Like there's a lot that's happening there where I don't know if Cal is tiers better than a lot of those teams where you could even chalk those up as W's, especially given what we're seeing with all the offense just falling apart.
I mean, I would imagine it's a confluence of events. I think there's a whole lot of different things going on. I think with Ron Rivera coming in, there being some question about who's in charge and who's not. That's causing some disruption. As we talked about on the show earlier this week, like we were talking about Oklahoma kind of going discount player shopping in the old Pac-12.
Yep.
Like they're taking less money to be in the ACC than these other schools. They just might not have the cash on hand to be able to pay these players, whereas other schools could get them for a discount compared to what they might have to get on the open market because it's still a raise over what they're getting at Cal. So I think it's just a whole lot of things. None of it looks very good for Cal going into 2025, but you never know. We've seen this kind of thing before where we've been surprised by teams we kind of written off in March and April. But I if the season started right now and we were doing a win total locks pod on the ACC, I would be going heavily under on the Cal Golden Bears.
Yep. And but at the risk of just setting ourselves up for literal years of subtweets from somebody who has not let any slight go, how much of this can we put some of this at Brian Harson's feet? new offensive coordinator comes in, go through spring practice, whole offense hits the streets?
I doubt it.
Yeah, I kind of doubt it. I
You think this is more the business of college football than like relationship scheme related?
I do.
Yeah. Another place where we are starting to sort of try to figure out whether it is a big deal or whether, this is a little bit of just the pain of transition. West Virginia has just seen an absolute, just literally dozens and dozens of players hit the portal. As I mentioned, over on 24/7 Sports, our great West Virginia site there, they even have them listed as transfer portal exits /cuts. So the message is being driven home that maybe some of these West Virginia players hitting the portal are encouraged to hit the portal. But Bud, from a expectations standpoint, how is this roster turnover changing, if at all? Your thoughts about what year one of the Rich Rod era might bring?
Like, not really at all. That West Virginia team was not particularly talented, and they definitely don't have 20 players on that roster that other schools want. So I would say it's a good headline, and I'm glad we brought it up because I've seen it a lot on social media, but I don't think they're losing a whole lot of guys who people will really care about here, to be honest.
Let's see. That is one of those things that I hope we are able to do for a lot of people is you see this as a topic, you see this as, a talking point. Let's bring us some clarity. Let's bring some expertise to it along the way.
Right.
It would be funny to blame the TikTok dancing ban.
I'm going to put it 100% on that. This is about TikTok.
This is about TikTok. These guys are hitting the portal because they missed their TikTok dances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what it is. 100%. All right, let's keep roll. But I'll just let you. Is there before we start to get to a few more of these portal related items, including I know we got Fran Brown's comments teed up. Are there any other sort of like team related or player related stories that you're tracking as when we sit here on Thursday afternoon?
Did you think the North Carolina D end who hit the portal was like that amazing?
I thought that it was not a good sign for two reasons. Number one, that he was a very productive, good player. I know that they poached the UConn edge rusher from who's again just another like not a superstar, but somebody who can be ACC good as an edge rusher. But there was a point that was made that I will offer a little bit of show my own bias here. Bo Atkinson was a very like classic traditional University of North Carolina football player as an in-state kid who wanted to be at North Carolina, who was like in the Keenan Flagler. He was like in the Keenan Flagler business school, like an upstanding, member of the campus community. I mean, I don't want to speak to that. I don't know what that guy does on Saturdays, but like, it seemed like the old guard, Bo Atkinson, is your all ACC player who's, part of that, part of that tradition of North Carolina football players. And so for him to walk means either he's commanding a number that North Carolina doesn't want to match, or that he doesn't want to be a part of the next regime. So, a disappointing loss, but maybe it sounds like you don't think it's that big a deal.
I'm just curious because it does seem like he's getting a lot of interest from like big time programs. So I was like, I thought he was a solid player. I didn't think he was like an amazing player, I guess.
I think that might speak to the level of player available and the need for the position.
Well, I tweeted this morning. So Steen from UVA is the third best tackle available in the portal now. And I'm like, oh man, he must be like really, really good. Well, no, he's actually not that great. I think like Cooper, who does a lot of our ratings for the transfer portal, has him at like 401, I think it was. And he's getting a lot of interest from, the worst team that we've seen in the SEC by like in a long time, Mississippi State. Non-Vanderbilt caveat there, of course. Like, this is why you have to pay a lot of money to get tackles out of high school, except that they probably won't do a damn thing for you as a true freshman and then reap the potential benefits of 2 really good years. Because there's just not many like good tackles in the portal.
Do you like the South Dakota kid?
I think he's okay, but like I don't think he's like amazing.
Is it Cotton? Joe Cotton? Does that sound right?
Yeah, I do love all the recruiting graphics on him.
With the 40
like a million teams listed. Yeah, That was fantastic.
Chef's kiss right there. So North Carolina also, as another little update here, Ryan Brown back in the portal. I haven't seen the Gio Lopez being confirmed, but with Matt Zenitz, I know, put in a crystal ball and reported that the expectation is that North Carolina was going to be able to get the former South Alabama quarterback Gio Lopez. If Ryan Brown is hitting the portal, shout out to our guy Ross Martin. Ross offered up. What was your favorite moment of the Ryan Brown era? Was it the open practice where they didn't have numbers and you weren't sure which one was Ryan Brown? Was it that one? Is that your favorite part? So Ryan Brown in the portal, I guess that would mean it is that either this is Bryce Baker's team, or we are going to see Gio Lopez potentially added to that room, and it will be either Gio Lopez or Bryce Baker in a competition this fall to see who's the starting quarterback when the Bill Belichick era kicks off against TCU. Let's see. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into this because do we have that Fran Brown sound ready to go? We talked a little bit about the Syracuse losing Trevor Pena, and now we've got some comments in terms of why that broke down one of the top returning receivers for the Orange, ending up deciding to hit the portal.
With all due respect to everybody in the country, to every wide receiver, to everybody that's doing all this stuff, like, if you want to make $2 million at wide receiver, that's to blow a homie over at Ohio State. Ain't nobody else making that money. Giving a wide receiver no $2 million, man, in college. Nah, that ain't me. I ain't doing that. I can't do it. Unless they tell me that we get a chance to have Travis Hunter, he could come back to college and he could come here and play for us, then he going to get some of my check. But I ain't paying nobody $2,000 this year. Not to me. $2 million, whatever. I just say, yeah, we ain't giving nobody that.
What do you think?
I think that Syracuse got great value from Trevor when he was there. They had a real easy schedule last year. Were able to take advantage of it. What did they win? 9 games? 8 games? Like
he was
like
also one of several players that all had above like 800, 900 receiving yards. Like he is the top returning receiver, but there were a lot of other guys that caught passes for them last year too.
I also don't think that he is an amazing athlete. So from a draft perspective, I don't think he projects as a first round type pick. At least like when I watched Syracuse last year, he did not stand out to me as like, oh my God, this guy athletically looks way different than everybody else on this roster looks. So, I'm kind of like, all right, dude, go get your money right now. This is at least projected wise, a pretty clear step back year for Syracuse. They won 9 last year, I think. Now their Vegas over under is 5.5. They won 10 last year. Okay.
Right. Won it 10-3. They ended up winning the bowl game.
And now Vegas isn't real sure that they're going to make a bowl game. And part of that is the players they lost. Part of that is also that the schedule is much harder this year, at least projected, of course. And it's hard to project stuff this year, by the way, just with all this roster movement and the lack of spring games. But now they're projected to win 5.5. So if you're Syracuse, is it a good allocation of your money to pay? And let's just not even say $2 million. Like let's say the kid wants it like $1.2 million or something like that, which still would be a lot, I think, for a receiver of his caliber. Does he help you that much? To Chip's point, I don't. You could probably use the money better elsewhere if you're Cuse.
Yeah, I stand with
schools
Fran.
they're willing to pay up.
I stand with Fran on this one. I wouldn't pay Trevor Pena $2 million either.
We've seen Miami linked there. He could be a fantastic Restrepo replacement, by the way, I think. Like, Miami needs some weapons in the worst way. So, that'll be interesting. Also, not like Nikar just hit the portal for Miami. Hakeem Williams hit the portal for FSU today. So, you're seeing a lot of these, like, very upside athletic but raw guys from the 23 class hit the portal today. So, we'll kind of see, like, if that continues. But that's another dude Miami won't have. Not that he was really projected to play a lot for them anyway, but that could make a lot of sense there for the Hurricanes. Like they need somebody to catch the ball from Carson back.
Trevor Pena, do you think he had a $2 million offer? Or do you think this is the thing that we hear from coaches where they are getting frustrated at hearing from representation or the players themselves numbers that they do not believe are real?
It's kind of a genius move by Brown to throw it out. I don't think he had a $2 million offer.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure he had a $2 million ask. But
yeah, I do think, like, especially with what just happened with Nico, since none of this is regulated, and none of us actually know what anybody's making or getting paid. It doesn't hurt a coach to inflate the number. If they're saying, yeah, you know what I mean? It's like the kid leaves. It's like the fans might be mad or concerned. You can be like, well, this kid was asking for like $25 billion. I'm not going to give him that. It's, so there is no damage done, but it's not necessarily mean to say that he asked for an amount that they still were just like, no, bro, you're not worth it.
Right. I mean, if we're going to be like there is going to be at some point, some person or some department in charge of looking at the fair market value of some of these NIL deals. But I think that a program like Syracuse has to understand, like, what is your value to our success, especially over a replacement player? Is investing this much in a wide receiver who is 0.75 wins better? I guess is this one wide receiver going to take you from 5-7 to 9-3? Probably not. So that's where that's where I think you got to be smart about how much of the game you are willing to play.
I mean, to Tom's point, if Fran Brown comes out and says, we're not going to pay this kid $500,000,
then it sounds different.
Then you're like, why not?
Right. Then you look cheap. If you say, we're not going to pay this kid $2 million, implicit in that is like, hey, we'd probably pay really, really, really good money for this guy, but not $2 million, which nobody's going to pay $2 million for Trevor Pena. So I think it's a genius marketing move by Brown. Like, he does a nice job of keeping Syracuse in the news. Like the whole linking up with Dion thing for the spring game that I think everybody knew kind of wasn't going to be allowed. Like that kept like Syracuse was in the news cycle. He does a good job of this. And I think a team like Syracuse can use him. It can use what he does for them.
Excellent. Any other, we're going to hit some questions and then a few more news items here coming up a little bit, but any other transfer portal players, team storylines that you got your eyes on as we're sitting here? Are we going to get a Nico resolution today?
I don't know.
I saw that Tanner Koziel, the tight end from Ball State, who originally transferred to Wisconsin, has re-entered the portal. That's interesting. I don't know what that's about, but it's interesting.
Can we send Danny to the portal? No, Danny's got a good thing going on today.
After Danny wins this $1 million golf tournament, he might not come back.
So this was 9:53 a.m. Eastern time. Our friend Hot Danger, is Wisconsin cursed, or are they just following their trend of being Diet Nebraska 20 years later? That would make this their Bill Callahan era.
Diet Nebraska. I don't know if they're cursed. I just think that sometimes things go wrong, and well, things are going right for other programs that are at your tier level in your conference. It could lead to a few years of pain before you can get back. I mean, Wisconsin got to where it was, taking advantage of other teams in their conference at the same tier having bad years and climbing above them. So I don't know. I don't know if they're cursed, but it has definitely, the Luke Fickell era has not gone as I expected it to. I'll leave it at that.
Lord, I've seen what you have done for these other people, and I wish it for me. Yeah, that's the tight end news, certainly significant. He was expected to be a very good player for the Badgers. So we'll see as they continue to break in a new offense after a season of turmoil a season ago.
There is some other stuff out there. Gilmore, who was a South Florida receiver, transferred from Kentucky to Nebraska and is now going back to Kentucky. So I don't know. Does that say something positive about the other players that Nebraska brought in this year in the portal? If I'm a Nebraska fan, that's how I'm going to read that. Like, hey, he couldn't crack our starting lineup. Our quarterback situation is way better than what Kentucky has because they're like hoping on Calzada, I think, which is whereas we have not Calzada playing quarterback for us, obviously. Julian Neal is another one to watch. We had heard some South Carolina buzz there, so we'll see. But I think Arkansas is in on him as well. That's a pretty good corner from Stanford who could help somebody. He came over from Fresno. So just a couple more I'm tracking.